My name is Delehanty, and I am an artist. I build time machines. Devices that take you away from the here and now and show you places that you couldn't see otherwise. They're meant to inform, to teach, and inspire. And anybody who enters my time machines does come out a more informed, more inspired person. My time machines are dioramas. Devices that will recreate a specific space in time, in nature, in human history. They are meant to teach you about your own history and your own place within the realm of nature. It's a special way of learning that, and there really is nothing else like it. Now, my art has always been this sort of exploration of the natural world and mankind. I've always made work that's kind of explored that problem. And somewhere along the line, it led me to making these works of art, dioramas, that showcase things like the lifestyle of a lost people, or the behavior of a curious animal, or a snapshot of a fleeting ecosystem. Remember that one, snapshot of a fleeting ecosystem, because we'll come back to it. I've been fortunate to work as a museum artist at the Field Museum in Chicago, and now at the Rochester Museum and Science Center. It has undoubtedly been the best education of my life. I've been able to work on my craft as an artist and work with scientists to make objects that communicate big ideas to the public. It's brought me into a much more deeper relationship with nature and a much deeper relationship with history. But being a museum artist, it's rather difficult work, and it's pretty unique. When I tell people what I do, a typical response is something along the lines of, "Oh, you build popsicle stick villages?" And I assure them, yeah, I kind of do. That is what I do, but I have to be very thoughtful, very specific about how I build a diorama, because how they're built is tied directly to how it communicates. So let me show you an example. Let's get into the time machine. We're going to go back 7,000 years to a floodplain near Shanghai and visit this culture, the Humudu. Now, they were a nomadic culture. They had to move every time that the floodwaters came in. Until somebody came up with this form of architecture, these homes on stilts, and this allowed the Humudu to stay put. And this new sedentary life brought on and spurred all kinds of innovations for them. We looked at their artwork. We recreated the scenes that they left behind. But you know, the more I studied these people, and I really tried to immerse myself in the research and the culture as much as I could, I started to see, it started to become very clear to me how central water was to their identity. And I found it something that I should really try to convey. So how do you do something like that? I put puddles randomly throughout the village. I put people interacting with the puddles. There's a river with a waterfall, marshes, and if you look up, there's fog in the air. And there's even an oncoming storm. So all of these details collectively hit your subconscious, and they convey a real complex notion, something very complex about somebody's identity. And it's done without words. To recreate their floorboards, I used popsicle sticks. So I have used them. But I spent hours working with those popsicle sticks. I distressed them with hammers, scraped them with wire brushes. I put layers of coffee stains on them. I even put little specks of red on them to simulate blood stains. Because the people didn't have quality footwear, their lives were really hard. So I wanted these floorboards to tell a very complex story like that. As if these floorboards were worn down by generations of people. And as if this village and their culture was something that was built by generations of people. So all these details, they're all very important. And to know them, we have to learn about our past. So science plays a big role here. I work very closely with scientists. Scientists and artists have a long history of working together, and they might actually seem like opposites, but in fact, science and art are in harmony. Every time that science pushes the boundary of what we know, they have to work with an artist or a creative person, or that helps anyhow, to bring those new ideas to the imagination of the public. So when I start a new diorama, it always begins with research. I consult with botanists, zoologists, anthropologists, and archaeologists. And because of that, can we hit play? So because of that, we're able to tell very complex stories. So let's go back 5,000 years to a Longshan civilization in China. I worked with archaeologists, and through my artwork, I was able to convey really complex stories of this past through my artwork and translate it. So whether it's the architecture of a lost home, or if it's an urban plan that's been buried for thousands of years, that all begins with scientists pushing the boundary of what we know and collaborating with an artist to help communicate that idea. So let's talk a little bit more about this boundary. And for that, we can stay right here in Rochester, but go back to 1885 and meet with this man, Carl Akeley. This is him not long after he won a life and death battle with a leopard. So he invented a type of diorama called a habitat diorama. And the intention, and he worked with his wife too, Mickey Akeley. So the intention of a habitat diorama is to build a replication of a very specific ecosystem, and to do it with such precision that they become exact replicas and time capsules for that environment. And this is very important because it inspires us about nature. It inspires us to learn more about science, our own history, and where our landscape is changing. And that brings me to the point of another very important part of a habitat diorama, is the fact that you can go back to these sites that these dioramas were originally based on and compare them to see how they've changed to today. So this is Stephen Quinn of the American Museum of Natural History in New York. He led an expedition to the site of the Carl Akeley mountain gorilla diorama and was able to compare the backdrops. And by doing that, you can see right away the effect of human encroachment on this landscape has had. Radio towers have sprung up. Much of the land has been clear-cut for farming. And if you look closely, there's even a refugee camp in the valley. And this is why habitat dioramas have become important tools within the conservation movement. Like I said, they teach us about where we are, where we're going, and where we've been. So we should be making more of these dioramas, right? So we should be making more of these dioramas, right? Good answer. We are. Let's go to Chicago, 2015. I was lucky enough to be on a team, very honored to be on a team to work on it, to complete an unfinished Carl Akeley habitat diorama. And this one was on striped hyenas. So these scrappy little animals needed a new home. And to do that, we crowdfunded from over 1,500 people from over 36 different countries. And they all contributed to the building of this diorama. They saw something important in them. And so we didn't want to let all these people down. Our team, we scrutinized every single leaf, every single stone that went into it. We mimicked the season that the animals were collected. I even had to remake the little ball of poo that the dung beetle was pushing around. The scientist said my first ball wasn't fibrous enough for the environment. So we worked with an astronomer. We wanted to get the star pattern right for this time of year. So when Carl Akeley was there on August 6, 1896, at 5:30 in the morning, if you're looking northeast, this is the star pattern that you would have seen. Even the moon is in the correct phase. So dioramas like this one, and this is what we ended up with. And I feel like we were very respectful to their habitat, and I think we go a long way to showing how these animals survive in such a dangerous environment. But dioramas like this one, they're thought of as a general sense as being maybe a bit dated or old-fashioned. And I've thought it too, and that's okay. And they're kind of under conflict a little bit with technology, because if you have videos right there on your phone, there's interactives nearby, so why would you want to spend brain power and your time on uncovering the secrets of a diorama like this? But technology is very important for museums. It enhances learning, and we shouldn't dismiss this new form of communicating. But we shouldn't dismiss this old form of communicating either. Because these habitat dioramas and dioramas have a lot to tell us. And I'm convinced that this is the reason why so many people love dioramas. Especially when they're a kid, and you stand in front of it, and you're teleported to this other place. It really sparks your imagination. And maybe you guys are some of these kids. And maybe you've grown up to be adults who have a greater respect of your own history. Maybe you have a greater respect of the natural world because of it. I encourage you, the next time you're somewhere and you encounter a diorama somewhere, I want you to stop. Just take a deep breath. Allow the world around you to just melt away and disappear. Take an adventure inside that time machine and lose yourself in it. Thank you.